Welcome to Sports News. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. We're still in the euphoria of what he achieved at the 2014 Africa Top 16 Cup. ITTF star player Haruna Quadri believes the aura of the feat, or that feat, will come his way when the International Table Tennis Federation World Tour Lagos Open begins next week, Tuesday. Looking beyond the successive defeats he suffered at the Kuwait and Qatar Opens this year, as well as his quarterfinal exit at the ITTF Africa Senior Championships in Cairo, the Oyo State-born star admits that all these will spur him on in Lagos. Officials of the Flying Eagles have confirmed that the team will depart for the African Youth Championship in Senegal tomorrow, that's Wednesday. Now the team will begin their quest for the 2015 AYC on Sunday against host Senegal at 5:30 p.m. Nigerian time. They will also take on Congo on March the 11th and Côte d'Ivoire on March the 14th in Group B. It's now a full house in the camp of the national under-23 team, as all the players who went for continental engagements for their club sides are now back. Kano Pillars duo of goalkeeper Yusuf Mohammed and striker Christian Obiozo, Warri Wolves pair of Ogeneka Retebo and Freedom Omofoma beat Monday's deadline set by coach Samson Siasia. Nigeria will face Gabon this Saturday in the second leg of the All-Africa Games qualifier. Now, Christian Benteke scored from the penalty spot in injury time as Aston Villa moved out of the relegation zone with a 2-1 victory over West Bromwich Albion at the Villa Park. That's in the English Premier League now, where Sunderland needed a 77th minute strike from Jack Rodwell to force hosts Hull City to a 1-1 draw. Southampton moved up to 5th on the table after a lone strike from Senegalese midfielder Sadio Mane earned them a vital victory over Crystal Palace. And that's in the sports news. Ijoma will be back with the rest of the news at 10.
All right, now, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today addressed the U.S. Congress, warning that Iran still posed a threat to the rest of the world. Mr. Netanyahu acknowledged his speech was controversial, but that it had nothing to do with U.S. politics. His address to Congress is on the invitation of the House Speaker, John Boehner, and it comes just 2 weeks before general elections in Israel later this month. In his speech, Mr. Netanyahu said Iran has proven over time that it cannot be trusted, and it has a regime as radical as ever and is governed by an ideology deeply rooted in militant Islam. Well, just 2 days after he was killed, thousands of Russians have bid farewell to the murdered Russian opposition politician Boris Nemtsov, and his funeral took place in the capital, Moscow. The crowd waited patiently to view his coffin before it began its solemn journey to a city cemetery where he was laid to rest. Here's Cynthia Are with more.
Thanks a lot. Several EU politicians and Russia's opposition leader were barred from attending the funeral. So far, no arrests have been made and no motive has been established for the crime. Speaking of laying to rest, the same will be done soon for a prominent constitutional lawyer who has died after being shot dead outside of a cafe in the Mozambican capital, Maputo. Gilles Sistac, of French origin, was a central figure in a sensitive debate about autonomy for Mozambique's provinces and decentralizing power. Then US President Barack Obama has asked Iran to freeze sensitive nuclear activity for at least a decade if it wants to strike a deal with the United States. But Iran has rejected the demand as excessive and illogical. Negotiations on Iran's nuclear program are at a critical stage, with an outline agreement due on March the 31st. Finally, fierce clashes are taking place around the Iraqi city of Tikrit as soldiers and militiamen attack Islamic State positions in the center. Battles were reported in the suburb of Al-Dor, that's the western Al-Zuhur district, and the northern area of Qudasiyah, and near the teaching hospital in the south. But the government advance has been slowed down by roadside bombs planted by the group. And that's the foreign news wrap-up. It's back to you now.
Thanks a lot, Cynthia. And the main news again. The House of Representatives has warned against the removal of the INEC chairman, Professor Atahiru Jega, as the Speaker, Aminu Tambawal, has described the idea of an interim government as tantamount to a coup. The Court of Appeal in Abuja has declared that President Goodluck Jonathan is eligible to contest in the forthcoming presidential election. And the U.S. Treasury Department has imposed sanctions on 3 individuals believed to be members of Iran-backed Hezbollah. The 3 individuals, Mustafa Fawaz, Fauzi Fawaz and Abdallah Tahini, were charged to court in Abuja for terrorism after a raid on one of their residences in Kano, which revealed a stash of heavy weapons. They were, however, eventually acquitted. Well, that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Well, coming up next is the Special Elections Countdown Program. It's a repeat of that program, Nigeria 2015. You have a good night.